So it's just a bit of a fireside chat style panel, and I'm hoping to ask these guys some questions and get some advice for you guys based upon the next couple of days, but also your entrepreneurial journey going forwards. So many of you will have already met Adam. I actually met Adam back in 2022, I think, out in Berkeley, where he was attending a very similar bootcamp workshop. I also saw him again back in Exeter, and now he's very kindly come over to help at this workshop over here. So he's the founder of a company called MoPrinto, which we'll hear a little bit more about in a moment. On his right, on your left, is Andrei Zaykin, the founder of the YEP Accelerator. So we're very pleased to have him over from Ukraine in order to do this. So I'd just like to start off, if you could just spend a couple of minutes talking about your accelerator and MoPrinto respectively. So maybe we'll start with you, Adam.
Sure. A bit unusual is that my business started with my degree. So I picked, believe it or not, I picked entrepreneurship and my engineering trajectory at 18, and the business did not exist. As a hobby, I was 3D printing to basically solve my own problems. And that was, I needed bespoke car parts. And, that just basically rolled from a service to something bigger. Then I was lucky, I pitched, I won a grant, and the rest is history.
So if you had to describe what MoPrinto does, how would you summarize this for these guys?
So this is good, I think, to say. So day one, when I won my first grant, MoPrinto was drop shipping 3D printed products, because I found that companies didn't want to make their own or didn't need to, because they were selling a £5,000 product and they just needed a £30 part to finish it off. And now it's pivoting this month into doing merchandise, because it's a much easier beachhead market. So yeah, I'm not much further along the journey. I keep restarting, basically. Yeah, that's summarized, I think.
All right. Andre, can you talk to us a little bit about YEP?
Yeah, YEP is an accelerator for early stage startups. We launched it, actually I founded it in 2016 in Kyiv. So it's based in Ukraine and have been supporting 8+ years already early stage startup founders. The initial idea was to support university and students making startups, but now we have several tracks. It's university education in terms of entrepreneurship, it's incubation for early idea stage startups, and accelerator, it's our flagship program for those who have already product, pre-revenue or first revenue and traction, and supposed to open fundraising round in 3 or 4 months to prepare them and pack everything for pitching to investors. So it's kind of briefly about what we're doing now.
Cool. And how many ventures ideas have you worked with so far?
Actually, if we're talking about the whole journey, like since 2016, it's more than 600 startups passed different our acceleration programs, incubation and acceleration programs. So far, we have in acceleration program 2 cohort per year. It's 10 startups per each, and 100+ startups in incubation were the idea stage.
Okay, perfect, great. So one thing that I did want to ask about is attitudes towards financing and that kind of thing, because I think, Adam, you have a very interesting story to tell. So maybe if you could talk to these guys a little bit about what your journey's been regarding that.
Sure. So obviously in the room, we're all learning to pitch to investors because that makes startups grow quickly. I had the problem or the blessing that I could do a lot without much money. So we all know, like, 3D printers are small, and I could operate it as a service. So basically, I was very fortunate to not need to raise immediately. I did win a competition for £10,000, so that helped a lot. And I had the benefit of being in an amazing incubator at Exeter. So I guess I operated very lean, because the day you take money, pretty much, you've got a clock that starts and you have to keep growing. What Jason's alluding to now is that I actually debt financing, which is really uncommon and silly for most startup businesses. And so one thing that we're taught on the course, or some courses, is you kind of work to milestones. So maybe tomorrow you're going to pitch for a MVP, or you're going to pitch to operate in one country. And basically, I've got a milestone which adds a lot of value without much risk. So that's, you got to think about it smart. So if I can double the value of my business before raising, I might save 10 or 20% of the business. Does that make sense?
So I think maybe if you can explain what debt financing is, this might be good.
Debt is just taking out a loan and owing the bank money, owing the bank more money than you borrowed. And actually, I do not recommend it, but one thing that it has helped me with is the day I took out that loan, I was way more accountable and I was working way harder. So that was an interesting take, because especially at university when I had the money, I was so sleepy. Of course, I was working each day, but sometimes you do need accountability, which is why incubators and accelerators are amazing. Go to every single one you can, every single meeting. As much as you'll listen to somebody talk, just hanging around at the end is probably worth just as much. So yeah.
Cool. And if we throw that back over to Andre, have you had much experience with debt financing with some of the ventures you've worked with? How do you sort of advise on different routes for equity for the ventures that you've worked with?
Yeah, we actually, in acceleration program, we really focused on fundraising of venture capital, like venture money from VCs. And the whole program is built like to structure everything to become in 3-4 months like investable or investment ready for venture investors. So actually, we have 40 plus venture funds in our program, like committed to give feedback startups and make these one-on-one mentor sessions. And we like see a lot of patterns from investors, how they would like to see the pitch deck, the founders, the team, the traction, and that's why we like structured program like this to build this. But it's not a loans, it's not it's just classic venture startup. But in this case, and here's the difference: like you can build like service business or like an agency, like, and you can enjoy it, and it will be absolutely okay. But for you as founders, it's like one of the first decision to make in terms of strategy, how you plan to scale, how you plan to go to market. It could be really the goal to attract venture investments. And if so, you need to build the super scalable business model and test it. And if you build an agency or service business, you can like grow, I don't know, 20-30% a year, and it will be okay. But in terms of startups, you need to build everything in such a way that your business grow like 30, 40, 50, 100+% in a month. And it's a scalable business model which investors are looking for. So they need to see this potential. So when you build a startup, like classic startup, aiming attracting venture investment, so you have to build quite a different strategy and go-to-market strategy, fundraising strategy, and so on.
Okay, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about this, which is, you're connecting these ventures to venture capital investors, and you're getting them ready to pitch, right? So in terms of, what kind of advice or kind of metrics you want to be able to show these VC firms, right? Are you able to comment on that a little bit? Like what are the most important things to be able to show them, right? What stage with their MVPs do they have to be at?
Yeah, actually, I usually say that they need to have 3 fits. It's problem solution fit, it's product market fit, and it's founders market team, team market fit or founder market fit. It's 3 different fits that like combine everything to get a really good pitch to investors. If you're ready, if you have this fit, the problem solution, I think it's obvious what you need to do something really valuable for potential customers. So you need to have a really real problem, and your solution have to fit this problem, because it's like sounds like obvious, but it's really hard and complicated to make it to make this alive. And product market fit, it's more about the validation, first validation and first traction and feedback from real market, from real customers. You have some signs or markers that they are like interested, they want to buy, or they are like they have intention to buy, at least if you do not have product. And you have this first traction, and it also could be not revenue or real customers who pay, but you can have some bunch of customers, potential customers, who like show somehow intention to pay to you for the product, for this product. And you do not mandatory to have MVP at that stage, real product MVP. You can have an MVP of your business model. It's more important to show the validation and to show the intention of your potential customers to use this product and pay for this product. And after that, you can start to build real functional product. It's also like it's to save your resources in the first steps. So when you have this validation, you can say that you probably have this product market fit, and you have growing traction month over month, 30%, 12%, 20% month over month. So then you can really expect that you can pitch to investor, because they want these three components. And founder market fit, it's just about the team, how well it balanced. Do you have all expertise, and is your background is enough for making this product in this vertical, in this industry, in this field, for those customers to solve this problem, that you have some really deep insights from this industry. You as a team should like show your capability to build without any resources from outside, to build a first product, first traction, and to have this more or less stable growing business model at the beginning without any outside like expertise or resources. So as a team, you need to be like structured and balanced. Everything should be on board at this point. And this will be the founder market fit. That is third one I usually say. So if you have all this like parts, you can now pack everything in a good pitch and try to reach out to investors. I think it will be really attractable for them.
Yeah, really good. And so then going back to Adam, we spoke a little bit about, bootstrapping your MVP. And I think it would be great for these guys to hear a little bit more about, what you did in order to get to that, and, what level of validation that gave you.
Yeah, so when at university, I guess it was pushed upon me a little bit to be a solo founder because, as a degree, I had to submit a business plan alone. So that was good to be well-rounded. And then the actual year of university, my master's, was actually developing a 3D printer for mass manufacturing. So what's the question?
Sort of getting to the stage where you were bootstrapping your MVP.
Oh yeah. So my hypothesis was 3D printing can replace manufacturing in China, but the current problem was that 3D printing was like a hobby, either really expensive for Rolls-Royce-esque products, or really bad quality and very labor intensive for low quality products. So I actually spent a year making the 3D printer to do low cost products inexpensively. And that was great. I created the machine, but then I had no customers, right? Because nobody needed that machine. Everyone was happy calling China and getting their price and getting it shipped over. So that was where it restarted, and I had this whole problem of I need to use the machine myself. And I started probing all these markets. So I've got a couple props in my pocket. So I was making kind of glasses for the NHS, like short runs, little really low cost products. But so bootstrapping. So literally I was finding my go to market in person while making money. And I said to Jason earlier, the investor was basically customers taking risks. So like the doctor that took on my glasses, he put his name to them, and we went to hospitals and sold them in hospitals. Same with the reputation for the other product. So I guess bootstrapping came naturally, because if somebody gave me 50 grand, 100 grand, and I told, I got a sales team and they went out and said, hi, we want to sell you, you make that in China, we'll make it in England. We would have just been shooting even in every direction. So it had to be slow and methodical.
And as you've all learned throughout this boot camp, the F word is very good.
And I was the worst, for sure. I was the worst. I'm pretty bad, but
you do yourself a disservice. But you've touched upon this point, which I think is really important, which is the fact that you are a solo founder, right? And I've tried to be a solo founder myself. I've felt the challenges, and personally, I've always felt that's very difficult for sort of. You're not as accountable for other people in your team, right? You need to be very self-motivated. You need to make sure you're maintaining momentum. So I think it'd be great to hear about some of your experiences, the pros and the cons of being a solo founder for your venture.
Yeah, definitely. Again, because I was at university and another guy did my course and he did his own venture. And so we would be side by side competing on progress, on delivery dates. And that protected me from being slacking. But I definitely say your odds of succeeding has to go up double by joining an incubator or an accelerator, especially when it's your first go. You just need people around you that judge you and tell you when it's wrong.
And how are you staying like self-motivated?
So,
what are your sort of goals? How do you drive yourself?
Yes. I need to start deadlining myself. You got product scope creep. So I just kind of increase the amount of things I'm selling or change the type of product when really I should just have something and sell it and see if it sticks. I actually started collaborating with another company to kind of hold myself accountable. So, to learn from others is really good. I help run a manufacturing community now. So I basically speak to 250 manufacturers and I hear all these good ideas and, I'm basically become envious, which makes me work faster. People, you need people, definitely people. I think solo founder is only on paper, but not in spirit. I have so many friends that are doing startups with financing and with teams that I go and chat with and have coffees with. And, come and hang out with Gigi and have a week to just have a different perspective on it all is really good.
Yeah, so being part of that community can be very important.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You're in a team. This is a sport of life, entrepreneurship, I think. But it doesn't end, there's no whistle. So, people that you meet today, you could rely on them, hopefully, to bounce ideas off in the future.
So Andre, have you worked with many solo founders? Have you seen some of the challenges that they've come across, both with their ventures, but also, my feeling is that in the UK, there can be a resistance from VCs investing in solo founders. It's what I call the brittleness of the company, right? So if you have a team of 5 and one person has to leave, it might be for, very personal reasons or something like that, and the company can still survive. But I feel like there's a bit more of a reluctance when it's a solo founder because it's more brittle, right?
Yeah, actually, we regularly have startups in our programs with solo founders. But I think that if you build a real scalable venture story, it would be really hard to cover all roles and responsibilities as a solo founder. And even if you have a team like employees, you pay salaries, but it's not the same that you are co-founder and you like committed and motivated and responsible as a co-founder. And at some point, if you solo founder, at some point there be the moment when you will not cover everything, because, for example, if you start fundraising itself, it's almost full-time job for several months, like 3, 5, 6 months cycle of fundraising. You as a CEO, you will be committed to almost for full time. And here you have also product, you have some customers, you have you need to support, you have some HR stuff, you need so you have a lot of stuff, and it's probably will be super complicated if you even a genius and you somehow manage it. For investors, it would be 100% yellow flag. Even somebody is for some investors it's red flag, and not for all of them, but it's really the point of high risk, and they will be like do deal you longer, like it will be more high risk for them, and they will consider you. And if you have you have competition, you have another startup like in comparison with you to in the pipeline of this investor, and if they will choose, if they will select for whom they will give the investments, so this also could be a factor, and you like will be in a more weaker position, let's say. So in terms of fundraising, in terms of attracting venture investment, it's a factor. It's a higher risk factor for investors. So it's
So this comes back to what you were saying before about founder fit, right? It's like one of those three fits,
Yeah,
and sometimes it's not
Yeah.
enough. So when these solo founders do come in, you said you work with them quite often. What kind of advice are you giving them to sort of get around this, or to try to get to the next stage? Are you saying to expand the team, to bring on more co-founders, or are you saying, you're going to need to show your investors that you are able to achieve this, you are able to scale, you do have the founder fit? What's your normal advice for this?
Find co-founders, at least one of them. Like at least you need to have CEO and CTO. It's at least like it's classic like advice, and it's not so easy to find co-founder if you do not have one. But we usually advise for our startups founders to attend a lot of like events, specific events from this industry, from this or IT events or startup events or events for like the specific industry where the product is, and try to like just talk with people, pitch the idea, and find your person like to like join the team as a co-founder. It's if you do not have in your nearest around your nearest like friends or something, so you need to find somebody from the like from outside, and more or less it's work in such events that I think.
So a lot of people who have formed, co-founded companies will use this expression, which is that having co-founders is like getting married, right? It's actually quite a big commitment. You need to try to figure out a very long-term relationship. And, in the position where people are seeking co-founders, you might go out, you might go and talk to them, like you've said, you might go out and see if there's a match. But what advice would you give people to see if they are actually a good match for you in the long run? Like how can we, try to make sure that we are on the same page about this to form co-founders?
Yeah, it's obviously hard to identify it from the very beginning. So we already discussed today the topic of vesting and options. It's one of the best like tools for this. You can have the agreement. You have like if you have the co-founders, you have to make at least pre-shareholder agreement, something like this, and consider the point of vesting, some period of time that when you like test each other and you like have some KPIs, goals, responsibilities, and you look how the co-founder, how the person is good in this, how he is like committed, how is motivated, and what the result of it. And at least you need to like secure somehow that this co-founder will not like leave you in a half a year or year, and you like provided already and granted him, for example, 10% of equity of the company. So the options here is the best like to save this situation. It's the best option. You can just put on the table and make an agreement that if you like will work and if everything okay in a year, it will be 5% first period cliff, yeah, and then another second year it will be another 5%. At least it will be safer for founder. If you are main founder and just invite somebody as a co-founder, it will be safer.
Okay, cool. So I'd like to throw it back to Adam, because you've had a few different experiences of accelerators and incubators and stuff like that. So I think it'd be great if you could talk about which ones you've been on and the various sort of benefits of the different accelerators or incubators that you've found.
Yeah, sure. So the first one I ever went on, oh, actually, that might not be true. I think the first one was UC University, and that was probably my first year. But it was probably a bit like going to a sports club. It was, go there, meet people, network, see if I like it. And I got excited by competitions, for like £500, put my hat in the ring. I think I came like fourth. So that was, that was probably my first thing. I came fourth in a pitching competition. And I will say, so university ones, in my experience, were the most friendly, right? Because you're their customer. They want you to feel good about the idea, and, they're going to be nice. But perhaps depending on where you're at, maybe not as financially aggressive at pushing you to the next stage. I then recently did it's called NatWest Accelerator. I think there's about 10 to 15 hubs in the UK. Really, really good one. It's paid for by the government, which is good. I've never done one where you pay. I think there is some in the UK where you pay to take part. I think that's for more later stage, mature ideas, perhaps.
Mhm.
Actually, I would love you to explain the difference between an incubator and accelerator, because sometimes I say the wrong one. So yes, great place, pilgrimage there every week, and see people's ideas and bounce ideas. Because also actually you use them. It's a bit like Fiverr for me. A lot of the times we do favors for each other, and people that attend these type of events are also great suppliers. So if you think, oh, I'd like to make a startup and I'm a researcher, well, going to an incubator place, you will meet marketers, whether it's individual marketing agencies, you'll meet people that want to supply the community. So it's a good shopping spot as well. But yeah, go to them all and try them all.
So that's really cool. I want to stay on that theme and ask you, what kind of resources have you found helpful on your entrepreneurial journey, whether that be, books to read or podcasts to listen to, video series, or, hopefully some of these hubs as well that you're talking about that can be very useful for connections?
I would say I'm a bad person to ask for that, because I got my full introduction very well taught syllabus during university. So that's called Engineer Entrepreneurship at Exeter. It's a 4-year degree. Sign up for that. Gosh, yeah, I'm not the best answer.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll hear from Andre for that. Is there anything that you would recommend for the startups or the people you're working with to say, you should all read this book, or maybe you listen to this podcast and that's quite helpful, or is there any sort of very general advice you'd give as resources?
Yeah, actually, there are like a lot of tons of different information you can Google it it's easy, and you have podcasts, you have books, you have like well-structured video lectures, for example. Y Combinator, it's open, like you have almost everything videos, like you can look at it. But from my experience working with first-time founders, if we're talking about first-time founders, it's really not super much helpful because it's not allow them to have and make a good structure of first steps, because it's quite a mess of a lot of information, quite a mess. And just you start, you can really consume a lot of this information, but just you start at the very beginning, you try to then make first, second step, it become a mess, because there is no structure. You do not know how to, because even if it seems like it's obvious and everything is quite well known already, you have very specific case, and you do not have an experience. So actually, next step, you need some. You always will be like it will be concerns. So the best way, I think, the most good advice, I think, it's an incubator.
Mhm.
Actually, an incubator where you have the environment and people and expertise and mentorship, and it's quite concentrated, and you have an advice or like good mentor for any case, any question, any request you have right now in the moment. And from experience of those people who are mentor there, usually they are really practitioners and they saw a lot of hundreds of cases different, and you really pick one more relevant for you and give you like just save your time. As usually we say, it's like 10x faster, like you move 10x
Mm.
faster when you in this environment. And just because of you, the people do not allow you to make mistakes and just give you right advice. You do not need to like try everything that you see in internet, and you can google a lot of you can google it, and then you have 100 different cases and options, and how to choose it, what would it the best. So that's why at least not probably not mandatory an incubator, the whole incubator or accelerator. It could be just a mentor, one mentor or advisor who can like follow you and keep you going faster without like not mandatory mistakes.
And I think this is what Peter Henry said when he came in and gave a talk a couple of days ago or yesterday, which was, one of the things that he looks for as a VC investor is coachability, right? It's like, we have this team and they're really motivated, but you need to give them direction, and how coachable are they? And that sounds like it's overlapping a lot with what you're sort of saying,
totally
is that
agree.
at the incubator, because they'll give you this direction and they're experienced enough, then you can really go much faster as a result of this, right?
Yeah, coachability is important part of this founders market fit as well, because it's really investors and incubators and experts who like saw a lot of cases, startup cases. They like detect this pattern like very easy. Actually, when I like make an interview, when I like select the cohort for acceleration, this part is also an important part of interview. If I see that the founders are not coachable, so it would be a red flag, because we will not most likely we will not help them during the program because they're not coachable.
Yeah, I think this is something I've experienced as well, which is that if they're not coachable, you can try and give them as much advice as you like, but if they're not going to take it, there's almost no point in speaking to them and giving them the advice. They're just going to do their own thing anyway, right? So it's kind of a waste of your time and their time if they're not willing to consider that advice. Sometimes they're right, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So just on that, I would say that one of the resources that I actually found very helpful, aside from your classic books like the Lean Startup and Google Sprints and stuff like this, was maybe a bit in the popular domain, but the early podcast from Stephen Bartlett, Diaries of a CEO. And what I liked about that was that he talked a lot about some of the mental challenges that go on when you're trying to set up a company, and the uncertainty, and the fact that it's not a 9 to 5 and you can switch off after 5 o'clock, but you're trying to bring this into the world, and a lot of people around you don't understand that. So have you seen this with some of the companies that you've worked with in terms of this tension perhaps between the founders wanting to work on their professional lives but also their personal lives at the same time? It's like when you're setting up a company, it takes up a lot of your time, it takes up a lot of your mental energy, and some people find it very difficult to balance that with their personal lives. Is that something you've seen with the companies that you've worked with? And if so, do you have advice for that?
I think when you startup founder and you at the early stage, you need to be ready to like 24/7 work on this startup. So the personal life, it's probably not the option at that period of time. It's quite common situation.
Okay, cool. So we're coming a little bit towards the end of the time that we have. I would like to turn our attention to the pitch competition for tomorrow. So you've both seen a lot of these, and Adam, you've sort of seen the Berkeley ones as well and participated in the Berkeley ones. So I wonder if you have any sort of tips or tricks or things that work well or things to avoid for these guys. So I'm going to jump in there with a quick suggestion for you guys, which is that 5 minutes is not a long time to give your presentations, and probably what you have is 10 or 15 slides and you're trying to narrow down. But what I would really try to recommend to you guys is to take some of those slides that you're not putting in the main presentation, but just keep them at the end, right? Make them still presentable, make them nice, because if you're removing them from the main part of your pitch, you may well have questions about this. And it's really nice if you can show your investors, yes, we have thought about this. Yes, we do have an answer for this. Here's the answer for us, right? Because you don't need to show it. If it's there and it comes up as a question, that's great. You can show the slide. But it's always good to have it and not need it, right? So that's just one quick tip that I'd give you guys for your pitches for tomorrow, right? 5 minutes is not a lot of time. So I don't know if you have any tips or tricks.
Yeah, I think the easiest one is pitch with energy. You've got to give the energy for us in the audience to receive your pitch well. So, speak with confidence, but please not too fast. What Gigi said, pitch, pause, and pace. And this is, I guess, objective, but I think having some sort of something about building trust early on in the slides. So I spoke to a couple groups. I said, if you're the founder and you've been doing it 3 years, or you started this at Oxford, just a sentence at the start, I've been doing it 3 years, instead of at the very end, because it just has my mind at this stage that they're already doing it. They already know what's...
You want the credibility to solve the problem.
Then is used for 5 minutes, which is built upon instead of just tagged on at the end.
Okay, cool.
So those are my 2 tips.
Very nice, Andre. So Andre is actually one of the judges for your pitch competition tomorrow. So maybe also listen very carefully.
Yeah, actually, I would advise for you, to make sure that you clearly explain what you're doing. So actually, the problem solution fit. This is it, and you in your presentation, I think that 70-80% of weight of whole presentation is if you explained what you're doing. Then business model, market, how you will, your roadmap and so on, will not make sense if you did not explain what you're doing. And it's really a common mistake and a problem, an issue. You do the product and you very deep in it, and you think and it seems to you that everybody around quite good understand what you're doing when you just give a couple of sentences. But it's not. You need to explain for those people who did not haven't heard about your product before, nothing, do not understand this industry and this specific problem and topic at all, and you need to understand, you need to explain them clearly what you're doing. So it's not just a one-liner and you now keep going to the market size and say how billions there is a TAM. It's it not work. So actually, you try to explain what is the product and how it works, clear mechanics, how it works step by step, and very important to fit it with the problem that you described in the slides before. So if you will explain it very well, so then everything will be clear, and understandable, what market, business model, and that. So.
Okay, cool. So we just have a couple of minutes left. I just want to throw it out there and see if anyone from the audience has any questions for these two while we have them here. Let's go for it.